It's short week, but we got to turn it around because there is too much going wrong with these Kansas City Chiefs. Let's take a quick look at the film and see what we find. Welcome back to RGR. I'm Ryan, and this is me going rogue. I'll try to keep the reflection out of the glasses because I am studying up on what's been going on with these Chiefs because it just defies a little bit of explanation. Very frustrating time, I understand, for fans, but also for coaches and analysts who are trying to figure out what they should be doing, what they're not doing. If you're new around the channel, hit the sub, the notification, leave your comment below, and click a thumbs up if you like this particular video. Now I'm going to run through these this week because we don't have a whole lot of time. I don't have the time to dig in before Thursday to get all the film squared away, so I'm going to give you my observations from my game notes, and I'll try to throw some film over the top of it. But a true film study is not going to happen this week because we got to get ready for those Broncos. I'm going to have a little bit more on that later in the week, so make sure you check back for that. The big thing for me is protecting Pat Mahomes, and you've all heard me talk about running the ball and how that can do that. And it's really just a physical, mechanical thing. If you're running the ball and he's turning around and handing it off or pitching it's even better. We'll talk about that later. It's better for Pat because he's not taking hits. He can get out of the way and let the running backs do the work. And I think that's got to be a bigger part of this game plan against the Broncos, who are going to try to eat clock again, just like the last couple of opponents have. And Phil Lindsay's a good back. They have the ability to do it. But I think the Chiefs are getting away from what they do well. In addition to not defending well, it's the offense that has to protect itself and protect Pat, and I think they can do that better. What we saw during the game is that at one point they abandoned what they do the best, not abandoned, but had to shift away from it and went to this kind of power double team kind of look where the running game couldn't get going. It left Cam Irving alone and doubled the interior players. At one point even leaving J.J. Watt unblocked, which I can never recommend in good conscience. But we saw it not go for a long play. Then they come back, an incomplete pass later, and they go back to what they do. This is a zone running team. Inside, outside zone. That's it. When you man up and you use the athleticism, which is the advantage of what all these linemen have, they're not overly powerful linemen. They are athletes. As far as the big guys go, they are athletes. Use them for what they're good at. When they went back to the zone run, you saw McCoy break off his biggest run of the day. And that is really telling you exactly what's going on, is that you're playing outside of your zone of influence at what you're good at and going away from what you can make real yardage at. And that, being able to run inside, outside zone, being able to use some of that motion in the run game as well, will protect Pat Mahomes. Keep his ankle healthy. If he had 4 quarters to stay running around on what is already an injured ankle, but is healthy and not getting re-injured, he'd still be productive. We saw what he did in the first quarter against the Texans. You could have that for a whole game. And if you can manage that, then you're going to be in good shape. And I think that's really what the key comes down to. Now, that said, that's a tendency. That's on the coaching staff. Part of it is on Mahomes too, because when you call run-pass options, there are 2 plays. Pat Mahomes can decide what he wants to do. And part of that, too, has to be take yourself out of it, Pat. Take the pressure off of yourself and run the ball a little bit more. I hope that they do that. Now, again, this is going to be a short video, but I want to highlight a couple of players that I think are doing pretty well and a couple of rookies that stood out to me in particular. I've been telling you guys for a long time about what Juan Thornhill can do in terms of being a playmaker. And he did have a huge play this week. It's probably running in the background by the time you see this. And yes, you can have the conversation about, in terms of scope of the game, was it a bad decision to actually pick off that pass? And should he have just knocked it down, saving field position, et cetera, et cetera? And then that's fine. You can have that conversation. But the guy's a rookie, and I'm not going to blame him for being instinctual. In fact, on the play, he doesn't get his head around till a little bit later. So it's really kind of an instinctual thing that the ball's close. He just reaches out for it. I don't think that you can expect a rookie to hold off from a chance to make a big play and earn a turnover, even though it is in a position that doesn't help your team as much as you would like. But that said, heck of a play, being able to take over for what is a corner blitz that he actually drops down and takes the wide receiver out of the slot. That really, had they run a deep in or some kind of out pattern, would have been very hard for him to cover. But the fact that they went deep with it allowed him to do what he does best, use his athleticism. And if you guys remember, he was top of the class on the safety group this draft in athleticism, according to the Athletic Matrix, the book that I put out every year on the draft class. And he's fulfilling that potential. I think this play really illustrates exactly what he can do when he's allowed to run. He pulled it off, and yes, he did intercept the pass, which is still a big step forward. He did say in his pressers this week that he felt like the game was slowing down for him, that he can recognize things, and that's a huge step forward for what has to be a guy that the better he can play on his own at the back of the defense, it allows Tyrann Mathieu to do more underneath. Same thing in the concept of trading for a cornerback. If you can get one guy that can lock down half of the field, your other secondary players can do more. So we'll talk about trades later. But the other thing is he came up real well. His run support was great. Almost forced a turnover again with a fumble. Felt like he recognized and charged downhill, used his athleticism very, very well. Juan Thornhill is making a good push. Also making a good push is Colin Saunders, who got pressed into service with the injury of Chris Jones. But I feel like he is a guy that is making the most of it. We saw him anchor pretty well. We saw him get off of blocks pretty well. Handled double teams at times. Not a perfect outing by any recognition, but Colin Saunders was not expected to have to do this or to be able to do this at this point. What we saw in camp, we thought he wasn't going to be ready at all. He's clearly proven that he's able to put in some game snaps, and quite frankly, from week to week, I've seen a little bit of progression already, so I'm feeling very good about Colin Saunders as well. I think he's going to make a contribution as they go through and make more of a rotation. With Xavier Williams out, they really need him to. So kudos to Colin as well. And lastly, for the game notes here this week, I just want to give a shout out to Rankin. Playing left guard, he played guard, he played a little bit more tackle in Houston in his previous seasons. I think he's earned himself a right to be in the conversation for what's going to happen going forward. I thought he held his own. Again, not a perfect day. Did get overrun a couple of times, but he anchored well a couple of times. I thought he took on some blocks in a way that was better than I expected. Now, is he a guard? Is he a tackle? We really don't know. You've heard me say on the podcast that I really feel that Cam Erving is a guard. He is best in there at left guard. When Fisher gets back, and eventually Eric Fisher will be able to play again, and he will get back. When that happens, it's going to be a question mark about who goes into guard and who goes into center. We could be a changing of the guard at both positions, because depending on how Wiley recovers, I could see Cam Erving be the better choice in terms of health and experience at left guard for quite a bit. And then you get the X factor of Steven Wisniewski coming in to play center. Now, Wiz can play left guard as well, and in a pinch right now without Fisher back, he could do that. I think Rankin put a good foot forward so far, but eventually it could be Rankin and Wiz at center. It could be Erving at guard and Wiz at center. It could be any number of things. I think Austin Reiter's a little bit overpowered right now, and so I do feel like while Wiz may start at guard, I think sliding towards center is really the eventual progression. We're going to have to see how that goes. But those are my offensive takeaways. I'll be back with some defense here before the game and give you some game notes as we get ready for the Denver Broncos on Thursday Night Football, a game that I will be at, and I'll have some instant reaction from the field probably, if not from the parking lot. So I hope you guys will stick with me for that. Thanks for watching this one today. Make sure you check out these videos, and I'll check you next time.